Namaste Om. Namaste. Last week, we began Savitri. And so we found out that it was the hour before the gods awake. The gods are the creative forces. And we have studied a little bit last week on this path of the divine event. Namaste. And we see this night, this huge, foreboding mind of night, all alone, in her unlit temple of eternity. And she's stretched immobile across the marge of silence. And night, Sri Aurobindo tells us, is the symbol of ignorance or avidya, in which men live, just as light is the symbol of truth and knowledge. So we see that night is stretched out on this edge of silence, and almost one felt opaque, impenetrable, in the somber symbol of her eyeless muse, what? The abysm of the unbodied infinite. So this is telling us the infinite is capitalized here, and whenever I come to a capital from Sri Aurobindo, I like to discuss it. Namaste. And here we see that Sri Aurobindo in the Life Divine says the infinite is not a sum of things. It is that which is all things and more. And we talked a lot about that. So we see that this fathomless zero is occupying the world. Please come down more and be closer to us. So there seems to be a power of fallen, boundless self. And this power is awake between the first and the last nothingness. It's recalling the tenebrous womb from which it came, and the tardy process of mortality. And we spoke about this because this tardy process of mortality is very indicative of our own taking birth in a human body. We are totally ignorant for many, many years until the mind begins to blossom, and we are incapable of much movement. We cling to the mother, and that's about it. Now we are seeing, and I've talked about this in our other Savitri class on Thursday, that today youngsters are totally different from what we were. They are born with hair. They are born with their eyes open. They are born with some consciousness of where they are. May not be expressed yet through the mind, but we see this rapid evolution carrying on, moving us towards what Sri Aurobindo has named the supra-mental, or the gnosis, or the real idea He uses 3 different terms. So this fathomless zero, this fallen, boundless self, has turned from the insoluble mystery of birth and the tardy process of mortality, and longed to reach its end in vacant naught. There's no aspiration here for creation, and therefore there is no creation. Everything is dark. And look what Sri Aurobindo tells us. As in a dark beginning of all things, a mute, featureless semblance of the unknown, repeating forever the unconscious act, prolonging forever the unseeing will, cradled the cosmic drowse of ignorant force, whose moved creative slumber kindles the suns and carries our lives in its somnambulist whirl. So I think this is about where we got to last week, and we have to go a little slowly in Savitri because it is mantric poetry. It is poetry that has never been written before, because only Sri Aurobindo, who was or is an avatar, could reach those planes far above the mind, not only the overmind, but even into the supermind, and of course, very often in the intuitive consciousness. So, what happens now? Athwart the vain, enormous trance of space. Athwart means moving from side to side. It's formless stupor, inertia, without mind or life. A shadow spinning through a soulless void. Thrown back once more into unthinking dreams, earth wheeled abandoned in the hollow gulfs, forgetful of her spirit and her fate. Well, this is so important because what Sri Aurobindo is telling us here is that earth was alive at one time. And we know that 6 times the earth has perished. 6 pralayas. And Mother said there would not be a 7th because of the supermind. So, what is this earth wheeling abandoned in the hollow gulfs, forgetful of her spirit and her fate? Because she's not remembering yet all those past lives. And so the impassive skies were neutral, empty, still. Then something in the inscrutable darkness stirred. Inscrutable, impossible to understand, impenetrable. A nameless movement, an unthought idea. And I read to you last week about the idea, just a little bit more. The idea is the realization of a truth in consciousness as the fact is its realization in power. So, we'll move along now. Insistent, dissatisfied, without a name, something that wished but knew not how to be, teased the inconscient to wake ignorance. Teasing the inconscient, incredible. Sri Aurobindo says in a letter on Savitri, the inconscient and the ignorance may be mere empty abstractions and can be dismissed as irrelevant jargon if one has not come in collision with them or plunged into their dark and bottomless reality. But to me, they are realities, concrete powers whose resistance is present everywhere and at all times in its tremendous and boundless mass. This is what we are seeing today. We are seeing this in the world. We are seeing all this filth, horror, war, killing, coming up, trying to block the work of the supermind, and doing pretty well at it for the moment. But no darkness can ever conquer light. Not possible. So we see that this something that wished but knew not how to be teased the inconscient to wake ignorance. Now we're going to see what's going to happen. A throe is a spasm, a severe pang, as in the pain of childbirth. A throe that came and left a quivering trace, gave room for an old, tired want, unfilled, at peace in its subconscient moonless cave, to raise its head and look for absent light, straining closed eyes of vanished memory, like one who searches for a bygone self and only meets the corpse of his desire. So this is very, very important. Sri Aurobindo is telling us that this old, tired want that's right now being covered up by the darkness, it's sort of at peace in its subconscient moonless cave. But then it raises its head and it looks for absent light, straining closed eyes of vanished memory. Like what? Like one who searches for a bygone self and only meets the corpse of his desire. And then we have what is going to happen next. It was as though, even in this naught's profound, even in this ultimate dissolution's core, there lurked an unremembering entity, survivor of a slain and buried past, condemned to resume the effort and the pang, reviving in another frustrate world. None of us can deny that this is a frustrate world. And all of us experience it and have lived it, seen it. So in this beginning of Savitri, when the darkness is covering everything, there still lurks this unremembering entity. Even in this ultimate dissolution's core, it is a survivor of a slain and buried past, condemned to resume the effort and the pang, reviving in another frustrate world. It is a great effort, and the pang is often painful for many of us. We grieve for those lost. We grieve for those who are ill. We grieve for children who are killed. We grieve for so many things. But when we change our nature, the grief can be turned to ananda, bliss. But for that to happen, we must learn to surrender ourselves to the highest force. For us, it's the mother. For someone else, it can be called the divine or God, whatever you want to call it. But we must resume the effort and the pang, reviving in this another frustrate world. So what is happening here? An unshaped consciousness desired light. And a blank prescience yearned towards distant change. A prescience is a foreknowledge. It's a foresight. A knowledge of actions before they occur. And then Sri Aurobindo gives us these three magnificent lines. Savitri, of course, is written in iambic pentameter. That means an iamb, which is a beat, short, long, and pentameter, 5 of those beats in each line. He is following the great epic writers of all time. Homer, Virgil, Milton, and others. So, as if a childlike finger laid on a cheek. So we have a multiple 3 in 1 there. That's called an anapest. But it's the same iambic pentameter. So, as if a childlike finger laid on a cheek, reminded of the endless need in things, the heedless mother of the universe. So the heedless mother of the universe, I'll just go one more line. An infant longing clutched the somber vast. When the Divine Mother, as avatar, descends into the human field, she has to take on all the challenges and all the difficulties that we are presented with. Because otherwise, she would just be a great God and we would fall down and evolution would not happen. And evolution must happen. We have to grow into something greater than we are now. We have to grow through each birth, carrying our psychic being within us, allowing it after every birth to select the things that were most relevant to its progress. And it takes the step with death into the next birth. But first, it has to go to a resting place. And we are told from the Vedas and from other great sages that after death, it's usually only 2 years until we take birth again. So you can see how many thousands of births we have already had to be here at this moment. We have to be very grateful, very grateful. So the mother, in Sri Aurobindo's little book, The Mother, he tells us, the one whom we adore as the mother is the divine conscious force that dominates all existence, one and yet so many-sided that to follow her movement is impossible even for the quickest mind and for the freest and most vast intelligence. The Mother is the consciousness and force of the Supreme, and far above all she creates. But when the Mother, as avatar, decides to come to earth, taking a human form, she becomes nature, the divine creatrix. And nature makes many mistakes. She will create something like a dinosaur and then get rid of it and create something better. And so nature always is ascending, evolving, but we don't often see it like that. So what do we have here? The heedless Mother of the universe, an infant longing clutched the somber vast. And now things happen. Insensibly, somewhere, a breach began. A long, lone line of hesitating hue, like a vague smile tempting a desert heart, troubled the far rim of life's obscure sleep. So we have to go back and remember that everything is dark right now, and the darkness does not want to disappear. And Sri Aurobindo redid Book 1, Canto 1, 50 times, each time from a different height of his consciousness. 50 times he wrote Book 1, Canto 1. So now we see that a breach is beginning. And we have this lovely, long, lone line of hesitating hue. Like a vague smile, tempting a desert heart, troubled the far rim of life's obscure sleep. So this far rim is now being troubled. And what's going to happen? Well, arrived from the other side of boundlessness, an eye of deity peered through the dumb deeps. A scout in a reconnaissance from the sun, it seemed amid a heavy cosmic rest, the torpor of a sick and weary world, to seek for a spirit, soul, and desolate, too fallen to recollect forgotten bliss. This is a very powerful, powerful thing, that this eye of deity that's looking through the dumb deeps. Dumb in Savitri always means silent. It's never pejorative. A scout in a reconnaissance, an exploration, an inspection, to gather information. A scout in a reconnaissance from the sun. It seemed amid a heavy cosmic rest, the torpor of a sick and weary world, to seek for a spirit, soul, and desolate, too fallen to recollect forgotten bliss. And we see here that this spirit Sri Aurobindo is speaking about is the creative spirit, but it's alone and it's desolate because now everything has creation with darkness, intervening in a mindless universe. Its message crept through the reluctant hush, calling the adventure of consciousness and joy. Now that is a most extraordinary line, because we have a book by Satsang, The Adventure of Consciousness. And many of us from the West opened to Sri Aurobindo through that book. And the mother told us that Sri Aurobindo was right behind Satsang as he was writing the book. And so it was Sri Aurobindo's force pouring into this man that created the adventure of consciousness. And conquering nature's disillusioned breast, well, nature was very disillusioned because she had seen so much horror, so much carnage, so much falsehood. And conquering nature's disillusioned breast compelled renewed consent to see and feel. Now, a thought was sown in the unsounded void. A sense was born within the darkness depths. A memory quivered in the heart of time, as if a soul long dead were moved to live. But the oblivion that succeeds the fall had blotted the crowded tablets of the past, and all that was destroyed must be rebuilt, and old experience labored out once more. The oblivion, the total forgetfulness. So we have a thought that was sown in the unsounded void. Unsounded here, you cannot gauge the depth of it. It's a void. It's an emptiness clear of all contents except existence and consciousness. Sat and Chit with Shanti. A sense was born within the darkness depths. A memory quivered in the heart of time, as if a soul long dead were moved to live. But the oblivion that succeeds the fall had blotted the crowded tablets of the past. The tablets, we know from Christianity and Moses and the tablets coming down from the mountain. This is the idea of the tablets of the past, the laws of the past, the guidances of the past. And all that was destroyed must be rebuilt, and old experience labored out once more. We know that Atlantis dissolved, Lemuria dissolved, and we don't know of many of the others, but these were two civilizations that might have been even greater than us in some areas. Perhaps physics, perhaps so many things. But all that was destroyed must be rebuilt, and old experience labored out once more. And now I'm going to read a line that is so powerfully filled with light that I hope you can all take it into your consciousness. All can be done if the God touch is there. All can be done if the God touch is there. A hope stole in that hardly dared to be amid the night's forlorn indifference. So we see that the night is still indifferent to the light. It doesn't yet want the light. It's happy in its darkness. So I think we'll end here. And there are so many of you that if you have any questions, please ask them. Yes?
In Bhavan classes, you mentioned this.
You have to speak louder for me.
In Bhavan classes,
Yes.
you mentioned the first line. It was the hour before the God's eye. Amol Kiran's some comments is there. He compared the South Indian temples, starting with the bell, all these things. But it is not touch me. But I feel something.
No, it's much vaster than that. Much vaster. See, these crowded tablets of the past have been blotted out. So there's no knowledge. There's no inspiration. There's no aspiration. And therefore, old experience has to be labored out once more. But all can be done if the God touch is there. A hope stole in that hardly dared to be amid the night's forlorn indifference. If you can read 1 or 2 or 3 lines a day, you will find your life changing dramatically. Because it is mantra. It has the power of transformation. These lines are not just the lines of a poet. They are the lines of an avatar. Sri Aurobindo. Namaste. 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 That's a good question. Basically, the supramental is not here yet. This is just Book 1, Canto 1. And so, yes, it's happening in this covering over the earth, this darkness that's impenetrable. Good.
Narad, someone told me this first canto is already about Savitri herself. In which sense was that supposed to be?
It will come a little later. It is in this canto. We see that, and Savitri awoke within these tribes. So that will come a little later in the canto. So we find Savitri and we find Satyavan at the same time, because the last line of Book 1, Canto 1, this was the day when Satyavan must die. So the epic poems, the epic poets never started with the beginning of the story. They started in the middle, and then they took you back and back and back. And we don't know anything about Savitri's life until many cantos ahead. And we don't know about the Divine Mother until Ashrapati beseeches her to send down this daughter of the sun, which we know as Savitri. It's a marvelous story. You see, Sri Aurobindo has taken it from the Mahabharata.
You haven't read the editor's note this time.
Yes, we can read the editor's note. This time, I don't know if I have it.
I mean, it says that when it started.
No, I may not have it. But I'll bring it next time and we'll read it because it's very important. Each of these characters, and there are not many of them. There's Savitri, there's Satyavan, there's Ashwapati, Savitri's father, there's Savitri's mother, the queen. There is Ashwapati, who is actually the pseudonym for Sri Aurobindo. Whenever you hear about Ashwapati, you just think Sri Aurobindo. These are his experiences that he is sharing with us. And then there's Satyavan's father and mother. And of course, there's death. And Narad. Okay. Yes. Yes. I tend to forget him. Yes.
Towards the beginning, you were talking about the children being born now with their hair and their eyes open, that they were
Yes.
more closer to the supernatural.
Yes. The new children, very much so.
I would like to understand a bit more about this and whether this is a ever-growing thing or is this going to come down again?
No, it's an ever-growing thing because these children, much like us, have had thousands of lives. The Vedas say that you have to have 100,000 lives before you can be here at this time on the earth. Can you believe that?
84 lakhs.
Huh?
84 lakhs.
Okay, 84 lakhs in India. Very good. So these children are obviously, we're going to get into this canto eventually, the sun-eyed children of a marvelous dawn. And they come down the stairs of birth to help us all evolve higher and higher.
So even though the world is becoming increasingly,
A little louder for me.
even though the world is becoming more darkness within it, we're also seeing an increasing consciousness at the same time. Are they connected?
I can't hear you clear enough.
If all of the world is going through a dark phase, there's a growth of consciousness also. Is it connected and how is it connected?
Well, the world has been going through a dark phase for many centuries. When the supermental was brought down by Sri Aurobindo, sacrificing his body, and then 23 years later, mothers working on the transformation of the cells of the body, and in 1956, she breaks open this door and the supermental light floods down on the earth. Now, the dark forces don't like this, and they're still putting up a battle, but they have no chance at all. So let us hold that in our consciousness now, because next week we're going to see how something breaks through. And that is extraordinary. Namaste all.